Were you ready for some football? I was. I was ready for some football. I watched a little football. You know what? It's fun. It's fun even if it's preseason. Here we go. It's a preseason week 1 Sunday edition. Of course, football, the biggest Sunday game known to man. Such a great sport. So how many awesome games do we have this Sunday? We've got one game. That's right. We've only got one game. They've been doing preseason on Saturday. So let's talk about Sunday's game real fast for those of you who care and just want to know. The algorithm says that this is actually going to be a really close game score-wise, but it really likes Indianapolis by the raw power of the team from last year percentage calculation, which is this thing right here. So does think Indianapolis wins this game, but thinks it's going to be close by points. And let me explain something about what's going on with the points, because I made a bunch of updates in the file this morning, and I'll be sending it out to those that subscribe. You can subscribe to this for the rest of the preseason all the way up until week 1 for $35. You get a copy of this file, and you're going to get like multiple emails a week from me as I update the file and talk about and teach you as well how to update it so that you can use it to your own advantage and even do better than I do with it. I mean, spend all the time you want to with it, analyzing things, learning about programming, sports models, and really anything you want to do with this. So it's fun. But let's talk about what's going on so far here in preseason week 1, and something I want to talk about here, which is the magnifier, and how the magnifier is definitely going to come into play here in the preseason. So first of all, what has happened? Well, there are other games that have not happened, that happened already before Sunday. There are these games, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday games. What I have this report here that's showing the results of the games versus the predictions that we have in the algorithm is it's sorted right now by projected margin of victory greatest to least, which all that really means is that this team over here, this team of reference, Buffalo, for example, that after I adjusted for all the new players and injuries and stats and stuff, we had a high projected score. This is different than what you saw in the video because I've been working on it today. But it would have said that Buffalo was going to win by 10. They ended up winning 16-15. So they won the game, but they didn't win by as much as the algorithm thought. That's basically what it's saying. And down the list, you can see it like Pittsburgh, it like Arizona. But look at how big these scores are here. The projected scores are really large compared to what actually happened in almost every game. A lot of these games are a lot lower scoring than you would think. So this magnifier here is going to help us adjust the projections to more meet what the preseason is. The preseason has about a 2.5 to 2 magnifier instead of 4.3. And that's going to lower down the scores, and then you can see things start to align a lot more reasonably here. Look at this, right? 2015 is 1916. 21-15 is 15 to 16-15. You get some lower scores down here. I just like what it's doing where you can see the numbers are much more in line. I feel like you only get high 20s or low 20s for low 20s. So it's making sense. So I'm going to leave it like that for now in the preseason. And then if you look at today's game, all of a sudden that game's now a much lower game at around 15-15, close game. The line is apparently not great for Indianapolis here, so this is a very tough game to wager. A lot of times the unders are good for these types of games in the preseason, but other than that, we don't really know. So what else I want to talk about? Well, if you subscribe and get this file, you can sort this pick sheet by different ways in which the algorithm is presenting your picks. So instead of descending margin of victory here, where we did apparently win the top 3 games, you can also do it by the win score percentage. And all you have to do is click this arrow right here under this team of reference, right here, and more sort options, and the descending by win score. And that's going to sort this by win score. And then you can also filter for things and say, oh, I don't want to look at teams that are below the win score of 0, which is right down here. Like, there's 2 halves of the teams here. There's the teams it's picking, which is these teams, to win, right about there. And then there's these teams that are supposed to lose, right here. These teams are supposed to lose because they have negative win score percentages right here. Well, in order to get rid of those, you can simply filter for this and say value filter, win score has to be greater than 0. And that's going to get rid of all the teams that it didn't want. And it's going to show you that the algorithm had a pretty bad bad week so far. Let's not include Sunday, but it's had a pretty bad week so far at 6 and 9. Not great, right? Really choppy, which is totally expectable in preseason. I mean, nobody knows what's going to happen. Now, what about when we look at it by projected score instead? Here, you want to change the value filter to greater than. And this time you want all the way down here, the projected margin of victory has to be greater than 0. And that's going to show you we're also 5 and 10. So just not a good week all around so far. That's what that's saying. But like I said, totally expected at this point. Now, what else do we want to talk about? Let's talk about what we're going to do when it comes to updating players, because a lot of the projections that are being calculated here are based off of players and who they played for last season, not this season. Why don't I have this season's rosters yet? The answer is because this season's rosters yet are not even close to finalized. There are going to be tons of cuts and maybe even trades. There's all kinds of crazy stuff that happens at free agencies and waivers and everything. So how do we get that updated? Well, I can tell you that it's interesting that we see Ryan Fitzpatrick here because I want to talk about him for a second. He plays for the Washington Football Club now. He does not play for the Dolphins. So why this is wrong and it needs to be fixed, and it's one of hundreds of players probably that need to be fixed. So how do you fix this if you want to not wait for me to do it later in the preseason here when things are more finalized, but you want to start doing it yourself? Well, the answer is there's a matrix for all the players, and I believe it's called Matrix. Right? There's a matrix for all the teams, meaning we're identifying all the proper team names and rosters and team names, but there's also a players matrix. Oh, sorry. Actually, there isn't a players matrix. There's just a bunch of different areas where we have players and teams. So, for example, Ryan Fitzpatrick is on the passing sheet here. Okay. And we're going to sort everybody by team for a second. This will probably be one of the easiest ways to adjust it. So on Miami is where Ryan Fitzpatrick is. He is right here. Okay? He now plays for Washington. So we have to change this to Washington. Now, will that change everything everywhere? Let's find out. Let's go to it's called the projection pivot sheet. This is where all of the different rosters and players kind of add up to what kind of contribution they're going to have for the team in the game. We're going to refresh this. You right-click inside here and refresh this project pivot. And now we're going to look under Washington and see if Ryan Fitzpatrick shows up as a quarterback. There he is. And he's got a contribution. So that would effectively change the score projections, and let's see if it did. Let's go back to the picks. That game, the Washington game was... there was a Miami game and a Washington game. Let me show you. That's kind of cool. So let's click on the Miami game and the Washington game. Miami and Washington. Previously, we had projected scores of 14-13 and 16-14. Now it's going to be 13-13. It lowers Miami's score slightly, and it changes the Washington score a little bit by adding Fitzpatrick, even though they ended up losing to the Patriots. So it's going to all the way down have the impact as soon as you change the player's team on the appropriate sheet here, passing sheet, the rushing sheet if it's people that rush. But keep in mind, like Fitzpatrick might be on here because he's also a rusher, right? Yeah, he is. So you also have to change him here. He's now a Washington player here as well. So you got to go through each sheet to see if the player appears. If Ryan Fitzpatrick ever kicked something and he was on the kicker sheet, then he would also be here, and you'd want to change him here as well. So there's receiving, rushing. I mean, is Fitzpatrick on here too? Let's look. Yep, there he is. He's actually caught. He's thrown. He's done everything. He's a utility man with a huge beard, and he's on Washington now, and I'm glad. I like him. I like him. He's got heart. So now let's go back again and refresh this. And refresh this. And whatever. It may have changed slightly. Point is that's all the work that has to be done over the next few weeks as the rosters get finalized. And then we're going to start bringing in the stats every week and then replace last year's with this year's stats. So that is how it's going right now in week 2. That's the update video. There will be more, but this is a pretty powerful tool. It's going to be a lot of fun, and it's good to see football back. It's football, the American game. We don't let those dirty Canadians in to football. We don't let any of those teams in. It's only American. We crush it. It is kind of the best sport to watch, in my opinion, and to gamble on. It's fun as well. So good luck, everyone. May all your picks be winning. As for today, expect that. I would take Carolina simply because I'm in Carolina right now. I'll probably do a video from the beach. I'm down in Wilmington, North Carolina right now. But I don't like Indianapolis. I almost got rear-ended in Indianapolis last week twice. Not a huge fan of Indianapolis, and I don't like their football team either. So go Carolina, but of course never listen to me. Always listen to the algorithm, which says close, low-scoring game that Indianapolis squeaks out apparently. All right? Good luck, everybody. May all your picks be winning.